Okay, this video is going to be a little bit different from my normal video. Usually I do MGBs or Myford Super 7 restorations, but this one is my little Tinny with a 15 horsepower Johnson on it. I had the boat out at the weekend and had a bit of a problem with the cooling system. That's the outlet there, and it stopped pumping water, so I need to investigate. It entails dropping the gearbox there. The water pump is just in here. Normally what happens here is that the impeller wears out and it stops pumping water. Anyway, we'll see when we dismantle it. There's 6 bolts here, 3 either side, and the gear linkage is in here, which needs to also be disconnected. So I'll take you through that and see what we discover. I've removed 4 bolts. I now have to remove 2 more. I've owned this engine for about 10 years. This will be the first time that I've removed the gearbox. The only other job I've done recently is I changed the seals in here. So it will be interesting to see what we find in here. This is a 3/8 bolt head. It's an American engine, so I guess all the bolts will be in Imperial. The final bolt. Apparently you put it into forward gear and it drops the case down, and I need to access this bolt. That bolt in there. Once I undo that, I should be able to drop the whole lot down. This is the pump here, and that needs to come off. Okay, I need to get this bolt out. It's also a 3/8 hex head bolt, but difficult to get a spanner in there. It's also slotted, so hopefully it will come undone with no problems. I'll just put these 2 trestle legs under here. If it falls, I don't want it to fall too far. Okay, this bolt has come loose, which is good. Okay, so I've pulled the gear casing off. This is the water pump. I need to remove these 4 bolts around the pump. The impeller is obviously inside, and we'll see what it looks like. These bolts look to be 7/16, so that's what we'll use to remove those bolts. Let's see how we go. They're not very tight. Okay. These bolts are all the same length. When we remove the pump, we have to make sure that we get the little drive key, which I'll show you here. This is it. This little drive key, and it sits in there and it engages with the impeller, and it spins the impeller. When the shaft spins, this little drive dog key will turn the impeller, so make sure we do not lose that. You'll see that the key fits into that little slot. Just put the pump down. I'll show you. There's a little keyway in here, and that fits in here, like so, which drives the impeller. It's extremely windy here at the moment. We've just had a southerly come through, and it's dropped the temperatures from about 30 to 20 degrees C. Anyway, I've got the new pump here, and I'm working on the ground because it's so windy. But that's the new pump. That's the old pump. New impeller. Also a new set of bolts in the kit, and those are the rubbers. So I've cleaned the surface with acetone, and I'm just about to put some gasket maker on there. I'll just put the base plate on. Okay, that's the old pump. Put this rubber piece in here, and I'm just about to press that seal in. So we'll just go over here and press it in with the vise. Okay, that's the seal in place. I'll put some grease on there. I'll put a light coating of oil in here. Help the impeller bed in, hopefully. Now the next thing is to fix the keyway in place on the impeller. I've got two options. I either put the impeller in first or slip the impeller over the shaft and then maybe try and twist this into position. So I'll have to make my mind up which way I'm going to do it. I'll just put the new pump in place. Now I'm just going to tighten up the screws and leave it to set overnight, and then we'll reinstall it on the engine tomorrow. Okay, today's another day. I've got the pump on there installed in its position. Unfortunately yesterday I couldn't really show you that very well. Yesterday was a pretty hot day here in Sydney, and as normal, quite often when you get a hot day you'll have a southerly comes through, and it was absolutely blowing a gale, and I found it really difficult to film the installation of this pump because the wind kept blowing my camera over. Anyway, I'm going to try and do a little demonstration with using the old pump as to how I slipped this on the drive shaft and engaged it with the little pin. I'll show you that soon. This is the old pump, and what I did, I lined the key on the impeller with the back of the pump, where you can line it up with any end of the pump really, because this shaft can spin into any position. I installed the impeller halfway in and halfway out. Now this turns clockwise, so when I turn that over, this impeller turns that way, but when you turn it over it's actually turning clockwise. So that's how you install it. There's the inlet, and these little blades are actually turning in a clockwise direction. Now what I did, I then put the little pin on the flat section. There's a flat here near the base of the pump, and I stuck it on there with some marine grease. And then what I did, I slipped this over the top and slipped it down until it meets the pin, and because this is sticking halfway out, you can actually see, you can look up and see the groove or the keyway on the impeller, and you can line it up with this little pin and slip it over the pin, push it down, and it will engage. Hopefully that explains it. There's several ways you can do this, but this seemed to work for me, and it worked quite well. Now I'll run a tap through these threads, just clean them out a little bit. It's a 1/420 UNC. The bolts were really quite hard to get out, so I imagine there's a lot of thread locker in there. So I'll just clean up the threads before I reassemble the gear case to the engine. Okay, that's pretty loose now. I'll go ahead and do the other 5. Okay, now I'm going to install the gearbox back on the main motor, and I'll use some Loctite on these screws. Hopefully that will all go okay. Start to line the splines up. Okay, this was a bit of a struggle, but I've got there. I've used this rope to hold it up there, which makes it much easier. If there was two people here, then it would be a whole lot easier. But you have to play around with the gear lever and the height here to align that bolt. And this little shaft here has a half circle recess in it, so that when you put the bolt in, it fits in that half circle, which helps keep the shaft in place. Well, I guess it keeps the shaft from slipping in and out of position as you manipulate the gearbox. Anyway, I think it's done. I'm just going to tighten all the bolts up and hopefully we're done. Okay, I'm going to use blue Loctite. Get a couple of bolts in here just to hold it in place. I've just used this masking tape to hold that little plate in place. I want to get it done up. Just don't want to forget to take that out. Well, that was a bit of an effort to hold that up, but this rope made all the difference. It allowed me just to suspend the motor while I engaged that shaft into the coupling just inside the gear casing. So that's all good. So I'm just in the final steps of doing the bolts up, and maybe tomorrow I'll let everything settle, and tomorrow I might start it and see if the water pump's pumping, and I'll video that then as well.